How's it going, everybody? It is Jerry Cavlich here, and I'm going to do a presentation on Mr. Philip Spector, as I am in Group 3, and we're supposed to do a presentation on a person that was highly influential in the 1960s. And Mr. Spector was by far one of the most influential producers of the era, as he developed a technique called the wall of sound, and he was a very, very crazy man, but he was also a genius when it came to sound recording technology. Currently, we are listening to a song called The Do Run Run by the Crystals. But before we get into that, let's get some background information on Mr. Spector himself. So, he was born in 1939 on December 26th. He began his career as a musician as he formed a band called the Teddy Bears with Annette Kleinbard and Marshall Lieb. And they didn't last long as they fell apart in 1958. But a fun fact about the band, Kleinbard went on to write the Rocky theme song, Gonna Fly Now. I thought that was very interesting because that's one of my favorite movies. But more with Mr. Spector himself. He went to college at UCLA for a little bit, had a short stint there, and then he moved out to New York. And he ran into Mr. Lester Sill and Lee Hazelwood as he persuaded them to teach him what they knew about sound recording. So that's where he got his start. And in 1960, he worked with Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller and became a staff producer for the records. And slowly after that, he was starting to make a name for himself. He went to business with Mr. Sill himself, and they formed their own record label called the Phyllis, and it's a combination between both their first names. And some of the acts that they attracted were the Crystals and the Ronettes. As you can tell, I'm playing the Crystals. And this is when they developed the wall of sound recording technique, which was his hallmark, Mr. Spector's hallmark. So, moving on, there's the Crystals, and if you want to hear something from them, here is the Do Run Run again. Very, very catchy tune. I highly suggest you guys check it out. So, and here is a picture of the Ronettes, another band that he was famous for. And the wall of sound technique made this recording sound fuller, and they used an overdubbing technique where they would record 4 to 5 guitars for the same part, and same with the piano, and they would use an assortment of percussive instruments to make the sound roar and full of life. And that's how rock and roll became such a fuller sound, so to speak. And some of the famous albums that he recorded were Let It Be by the Beatles, their last album, George Harrison's All Things Must Pass, and the Ramones' End of the Century. But Mr. Spector himself got in some legal troubles in the early 2000s as he was convicted of killing Lena Clarkson in 2003, and he was sentenced to 19 years in 2009. So yeah, he was a bit of a bad man to say the least, but his legacy lives on as he reinvented the sound of rock and roll, and the wall of sound technique inspired Bruce Springsteen, Rolling Stones, and the Beach Boys records throughout the years. He's known as Grandfather Pop and is a legendary recluse and eccentric in the world of music. So, and plus he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in the 80s, so he's a very important man in the music industry, and there's my bibliography. Thanks for listening, guys.